Hello, welcome to Sheepdog Says. I'm Sheepdog, and today I was thinking about just random times I've done stuff around the house and it's all gone wrong. It's coming up to the summer sort of period, the warmer time when like my in-laws are around today mowing my lawn. My wife's been doing a bit of spring cleaning. She finishes her maternity leave in about a week, and so it means that she's going to go back to work and she's trying to get bits done before she goes. It's all very domesticated and good. Now, I get involved in some of these bits, but generally I avoid it because I'm a bit of a klutz, as you probably gathered by the videos you've watched so far. I'm usually all right with mowing the lawn. It's just monotonous, isn't it? It's like, I tend to prefer to get someone else to do stuff when it comes to putting stuff together. Like my father-in-law's very handy. I'd like to hire someone in if they were going to do like painting or whatever. Like my brother-in-law's really hands-on. He'll just like carve a hole in the wall and put up loads of wood and stuff, and his house is constantly being done up, whereas I'm just looking around the house thinking, at some point I'll get someone to do that, at some point I'll get someone to do that. Until that point, I'm quite happy with how it is, you know. I think my wife and my mother-in-law painted the wall behind me, which is probably the finest wall in the house. I painted the living room wall, and all I noticed is all the little imperfections around the edges where I didn't quite get to the bit at the top. I won't ever go in there and take a picture because I'm ashamed of it. At some point I want to get coving to go around the edges to cover it all up, but I think I'd probably balls that up. I'd probably fail at putting it up, or it'd be crooked, or something would be wrong and it would annoy me. So I may just get someone in to paint those walls and job done. I wish we lived in a world where it was a bit like, you know, when you're on paint on your computer and you just do the cup and you click and it fills the wall. They need to invent that so I can just go boop and it just changes red or whatever. That'd be perfect. Invent that. Duralux? Is it Duralux or Durex? Duralux. It's Duralux. It's not Durex, I think. Anyway, I have got a string of cock-ups along the way. The earliest one I can remember with my wife is knowing that we sat down to put a bookshelf together, and we got all our little IKEA tools set out and screwing everything in, and we put it up and we're like, there, it's done. And then we noticed that some of the pieces had the nice smooth bit of wood and some had the rough bit, and we'd basically put it all together higgledy-piggledy and nailed the back on, so that on the wrong side, on the smooth side, so we couldn't even take the back off because the smooth side would have all these holes in it, but the rough side just looked awful. So I think we ended up just shifting it sideways and putting it in a corner and filling it with CDs and just thinking, you can get out of here, and buying a new one. From that moment onwards, I always got a more mature adult to help me out, which is a bit of an oxymoron when you consider that a lot of the time that ended up being Kev. He used to, I think 3 times at least, he's been around my house to help me put a desk together or something. I returned the favour around his. We put together his glass. I think I remember carrying a glass table with him, putting it together, putting it out into his room, then helping him move it to another room, then helping him move it upstairs, and now I think it's probably in a skip somewhere. But he's helped me put together his fair share of desks, and none of those desks exist anymore. I've got a weird habit of replacing desks or sofas, or kettles is a weird one. He was moaning at me a while back because in the time he's known me, he's had 1 kettle and I've had about 8. We were kettle shopping the other day, Kev. I almost text you. You're not watching this. Who am I kidding? But if Anna's watching, tell Kev we were kettle shopping the other day, and I know that he'll say, that man needs to keep a kettle more than a year, because I don't even want a new one. My wife is looking. Anyway, but he helped me put together this desk one time. It was a big, massive thing. I don't know why I bought it. It was a bit of an eyesore, and I openly admit that. But it had shelves above it, so I could put stuff up there. I could have my PC monitors here, and I could have my computer underneath, and I could sit at it, and I put a little keyboard tray under it. And I kept it relatively clean. It was put together well. It looked good, other than being a bit massive. And I noticed one day, I was like, oh, what is that stain? And I rubbed it and it weren't coming off. So I went and got a pad, and I'm rubbing it and I'm rubbing it. And I started, oh my God, it's spreading. What is this? And I'm rubbing it and I'm rubbing it and I'm rubbing it. And I thought, it's getting wider and wider. The harder I scrub, the wider the stain's getting. How is this working? This doesn't make any sense. And honestly, I know I come across as dumb most of the time on this, but this is one of those moments where I couldn't believe how dumb I was being. It wasn't a stain. There was a slight, I'd rubbed away some of the paint on the woodwork. And the harder I was rubbing, the more paint I was rubbing off the woodwork. So I ended up with this massive circle like that, just on the table, where I'd rubbed away all the brown varnish, and the wood underneath was obviously a kind of pale, light brown, whitey colour. And so when my wife come home, she's just like, why is that coaster there? Or, you know, whatever. And I'm like, no reason, leave it alone. And she just moves it and sees this gaping patch where I just, oh. I said to her, oh, I'll repaint it. But that unit's still in our garage. It's got a load of stuff on it at the moment, like our tent that we bought because we go on loads of camping holidays, and then we've been on one. But every time I go out there and I move the tent or whatever, I see this massive patch and I just think, you pillock, what on earth were you thinking? My brain just didn't register. I thought it was wax, and I was thinking, who's put wax on it? Who's put a candle on this wooden stand? This is insane. Yeah, I didn't think it through. I don't always think things through, as we've established, and I was trying to think of the way to explain this without going too geeky, but I had this curse where every summer my computer would break, to the point where I used to say to my wife, are you sabotaging my PC every July so that I can't be on it over August and I spend time with you? And she would get suspiciously angry with me for accusing her of it. She wouldn't just be like, no, or no, don't be an idiot. She'd get angry that I accused her, which made me think she probably was sabotaging it. She pretends she's not computer literate. That's a bit of a tangent. This is the woman that I had this amazing save on Football Manager 2008, which it ultimately died. I lost it, and there's a rant on the Sports Interactive forum where I had a meltdown at them because I lost my save. It corrupted. But before it corrupted, I had an issue where I couldn't log into it, and it was broken, and I couldn't use it, and all of this, and I was trying to figure out what the hell had happened. And then one day I discovered that the password was my wife's name. And I said to her, well, why have you locked it? She said, I haven't locked it. And I said, well, what was your name? So you must have done. And again, she got annoyed. So I've had this little niggling doubt in my head that she'd probably locked that because I didn't lock it. If I'd have locked it, I'd have known, although evidence suggests I'm dumb, so probably not. But the PC one, I was just like, I don't know. And I'm worrying she might overhear me and then, you know, give me a slap when she sees me. She doesn't hit me. If anyone's watching, she doesn't hit me. I'm worried I'll get told off if she hears me saying that she might have sabotaged my PC. But it kept happening and happening and happening. And in one year, I was a friend of mine, Fardin, was advising me over the phone on what it could be and the different issues he'd looked at. And I think what had actually happened is I'd changed a setting that said use all 4 cores at 100% or something stupid. I told it to use all the cores instead of one of the cores on startup or something dumb like that. And when I started it up, it had just not worked. And I couldn't log back in to change the setting. So he's telling me to take out the processor and this, that, and the other and look around. And anyway, he tells me to open it up. And he says to me, that's the processor there. If you pull this clip up, you can pull the processor out. So he's chatting away. And I lean in and I pull the clip up and I lift it up. And just as I'm holding it in my hand looking at it, he goes, but you mustn't touch that bit, because if you touch that bit, you're probably going to break it. And I was like, it's in my hand. And he's like, well, I said, don't touch it. I said, yeah, but I was already holding it by the time you'd said that. You should have started your sentence with don't touch it. You've started your sentence at, like, there's the bit, pull the clip, blah, blah, blah. So in a panic, I pushed it back in place and I pulled the thing shut. And it didn't quite go. I was like, oh, it's not going in. And he was like, don't force it. And I said, well, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to force it. And I'm trying to pull it and push it and clip it in place. And he's like, you got to be careful because underneath are a load of pins. And if one of those pins gets bent, then your whole processor's ruined or whatever. And I'm thinking, oh, well, this is probably wrecked then. So when I pushed it in and pulled the thing down and started it up, but sure enough, it just went kaput. It was dead. So I had to put an accidental claim in on it, an accidental, like, I've broken my computer, it's a mess, whatever. They helped me replace it and whatever. But I just couldn't believe it. That's, again, an example of me just being an absolute plonker and thinking, well, that time, I feel like it was Fardin's fault, but still, it was domestic. I don't get involved in nuts and bolts now. I'm trying to stick to laptops. Kev's taught me that laptops are disposable, and if it breaks, you just get a new one after 3 or 4 years, or in his case, 1 or 2 years. But, yeah, I just feel like anything that involves some sort of technical ability or knowledge, I shouldn't be involved in. I should have learned this lesson slightly earlier, before I met my wife, before I met Fardin and his computer advice, and I had my own flat, which I mentioned before. My mate helped me he did all the flooring. I got furniture from wherever I could get it. My friends helped me with bits and bobs. And then I got a Labrador, which kind of wrecked the flooring and stuff like that. But the one job I tried to do myself, and I'm looking back on this actually, and I'm thinking to myself, I made a lot of mistakes. So I needed to paint my hallway. My hallway was just this awful wallpaper. And I think my plan would have been to do something like dark blue and just paint it and job done. But for some reason or another, I ended up with pink paint. I don't know whether my mates all just goaded me into it or convinced me that that was the best thing to do. But looking back, the colour was horrific. And I don't know what I was thinking buying it. I don't know, I spent money on that paint and I don't know why. But either way, I spent some days slapping it up on the walls. I asked everyone, should I paint onto the wallpaper or should I paint onto the wall? And everyone said to me, just slap it on the wallpaper, what does it matter? And it looked horrible because it was all bobbly wallpaper, so it just didn't look right at all. But I got like halfway through and thought, I can't be bothered, so I jokingly put a note on the wallpaper saying like, finish here, July 10th, 2025, in pencil or whatever, and just left it. Now, there's two parts to this. Part one is I left that flat and that still hadn't been finished. But part two, within about, I don't know, it wasn't that long, the wallpaper just started falling off the wall from the weight of the paint on the wallpaper. So I ended up with these weird bulging bits that just got torn over time and just bits hanging off. And it was just the worst. I didn't have much pride in the place. It was a hideous flat, but looking back, I kind of think to myself, God, like, that was a clear sign. I needed to meet someone and settle down and just have someone with standards around. I dread to think what this wall would look like behind me if my wife wasn't here to say, right, we're going to paint it a nice purple. We've got some nice purple curtains up next to me. You know, it's quite a nice room. The room's all themed. All of our stuff's purple. Yeah, she's done a really good job. Look, this is purple even. It's a very purple kitchen. I think if it was me, it'd probably just be wood the wrong way round. The walls would be white, bits hanging left, right and centre. There'd be none of this with the wires and that. Or if there was, it'd all be kind of, I don't know, it'd probably be loose wires. There'd be sparks flying over me. It's definitely been interesting learning about these things with a wife. But I think she's learned quite quickly that neither of us should really get involved. Like, she had help doing this. I think she could go around if she had the time and the energy to paint everything. She probably could do a good job. She is good at stuff. But I'm really not. And I keep saying to her, I'm more than happy to save whatever and just get a professional in to do it, because otherwise it's just going to be a car crash. But anyway, that is it. I had a quick look down my list. Can't see anything else off the top of my head that I have done stupidly, but I'm sure there'll be other stories. Do you have any kind of domestic things? There's an awesome thing. If you've listened to Radio X, Johnny Vaughan does a thing where people have they've had an ongoing problem in their house. I think that someone's hot tap wasn't working, so to get around it, they've done something else, and it's been like that forever. And there's somebody who said that their floor kept getting worn at a certain point, so rather than keep replacing the carpet, they've just painted the floor a certain colour so it blends in, and stuff like that. That's my kind of thinking. But have you got any sort of stories similar where you've had these weird domestic issues? I mentioned the other week that I once sawed a chair in half to get it out of my house just because it seemed easier. I'm a creative thinker, but I'm definitely a half-assed tradesman. I wouldn't be any good at tiling or anything like that. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing, give me a subscribe, a like, a comment. I'll put the things up along the side. Give me any ideas for topics you want to see. Yesterday people said they'd like to see football. You know, I'll try and do some bits and bobs here and there. If there's anything you want me to cover off or any questions you have, feel free to ask them. I like the back and forth from you guys. I've noticed anytime I mention Arsenal, I get a thumbs down on a video. That's been twice now, so I won't mention them again. Because yeah, not that I'm bothered about thumbs down and all that, but it's just it's the only pattern I'm noticing. Anyway, but yeah, thanks very much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.